Hello and welcome to another episode of Page Burners. We're working our way through the Malazan books in publication order by both authors Stephen Erickson and Ian Esselmott. We just finished Midnight Tides and we are doing a discussion today of The Healthy Dead, the second Bauchelain and Korbal Broach novella in publication order. Carl just showed up with an interesting name, but he'll tell us all about it when he introduces himself. But before we move on, what we read next is Night of Knives by Ian Esselmont. We'll finally get to our first Esselmont book. And then the book after that will be Bone Hunters. We're going to divide up Night of Knives into two sections. I believe we're going to the end of chapter 4 for the first discussion. The Kindle and the paperback books have different 50% marks. I think we'll do up to chapter 4 for next week if you're reading along with us. If you'd like to discuss the books with us, please check out the Patreon forum. We have several threads there for spoilerful and spoiler-free discussions. We have, of course, the usual group of friends and some special guests today. They'll go around introducing themselves, tell us what they're most excited to talk about in what we read this week. Maybe Steve, we haven't seen you in a while. You start the introductions.
Yeah, I'm back after a hiatus, but Steve from Page Chewing, and I am most looking forward to talking about the satirical aspects of this book. And I'll kick it over to a special guest, my panel chewing co-host, Jared.
Panel chewing co-host here, Jared. And I also run the Fantasy Thinker YouTube channel, and I'm also on
other things.
Speculative Speculations podcast and the Oscar Project for film chewing as well. Ooh. And I guess I want to talk about the more independent thinking of Emancipor Reese that we got this time. Dan.
Yeah. So I'm Dan, and unfortunately, I don't run anything unlike most people here. But I do have some things I want to discuss. And well, one of the things I did want to discuss is just the style of these, let's call them, they're novellas. And, what everyone's opinion is, if you think it's the same style compared to the previous one we read, or the inspirations for this style compared to Malazan. I'll pass to Shannon.
Thank you. My name's Shannon. Similarly, I don't run anything either. I just read stuff and come here and talk about it. And I think this being a short story, I'm okay just copying somebody, and I'll say I'm with Steve. I really want to talk about the satire it's in here. I think it's well done. So, Carl?
And I am Korbal Broach, returned again. I, too, am categorically opposed to running in any form. Instantly, I break out in a cold sweat just talking about it. I'm actually very uncomfortable at the moment. This is my first time reading this short story, although I am something of a Malazan vet. And I guess what I am most interested in talking about is the sort of thesis statement or the punctuation mark he puts on this story, Erickson, near the end, where he declares that this obsession, this health fascism, as it is noted before the book and the dedication, is a form of lust. I'm interested in discussing that because I think there's a lot to discuss there, and also because I think I disagree. But anyway, I'll hand things back to our intrepid adjunct.
Yeah, I think mine is maybe somewhat similar to yours, Carl. I guess one of the arguments that can be made about, say, the theme of this book, that any good things taken to the extreme or enforced with zealotry can really turn out to be as bad as the thing you're trying to protect against, maybe. But what I want to know is whether the author thinks that ahead, like the wellness movement is a good thing at all. Like if it's the thing itself or how it's enforced, that's the problem that the story is talking about.
Cool.
Because
Where
I
do we want to
couldn't really
start?
tell. Yeah. Maybe we'll start with Steve's and Jared's things because they get taken over by sleep warrants occasionally. So,
Those pesky sleep warrants.
Yeah, more Warrens.
Yeah.
so let's do Steve first because that's the more general one we can start with. So take it away, Steve.
Yeah, I was a little bit surprised. So I think this book has more of a dark comedy feel to it, and the satirical aspects of it I thought were relatable. I mean, I think there are themes in the series that are relatable to everyone, but I think this is a little bit more on the nose. I don't mean that in a bad way. I just mean I think Erickson was trying to make a statement with this book, and while it's a Malazan packaging, it still has a lot of messaging that I think most of us can kind of chew on, whether or not we relate to it or we agree with it. It gets our brains thinking about something other than fantasy or fantasy themes, a little bit more close to home with the wellness movements and being healthy, and when being pure, when being living a lifestyle becomes the standard and becomes this way of living, that it becomes almost a form of fascism or a form of control, and it goes too far one direction, and it takes a couple of necromancers to bring it back, kind of bring everything back and centered. So I think there has to be. I think what I took away from it is that there has to be a balance. You can have these, you can have these kind of lifestyles and thoughts and standards, but there also has to be people who don't necessarily agree with that, and you have to have a yin to the yang to have that kind of balance. I think just in life in general, I think you need that balance. Otherwise, it becomes unbalanced and it becomes something else.
Speaking of the balance and the yin yang and all of that sort of symbolism, a very quick interjection to just ask Steve, what did you think of Midnight Tides?
I haven't finished it yet. I'm almost done. I will be done before next week. So
Hey, chat. Sorry, you can't see this, but I just spontaneously combusted.
Yes, I will hang my head in shame because I spent a couple of weeks not reading other than a couple of comic books, not reading a single page. So it's been really busy, but I'm catching up.
You had real important life stuff going on, but
there was a couple
more
couple of things.
Than this book club.
A couple of things, yeah. No big deal. Yeah, but yeah, I'll catch up. I'll be ready for next week. But I think Shannon also kind of mentioned that the satirical themes. What are your thoughts, Shannon?
I can't. I think it's interesting. You were talking about you were unexpected by just how much satire and comedy was in this. This is a reread for me. I think probably just me and Jared maybe are the only ones that read this before. And yeah, so Blood Follows, I liked it a lot. I kind of had to bite my tongue though just a little bit because this book is where this is Bauchelain and Korbal Broach. This is what these stories are. They're highly satirical, lots of comedy. This is the second published one, and I think so the first one was kind of a little bit more like his normal Malazan books. This one is just funny, I think, just hilarious. And also, but also him trying to be very trying to tell you something, and this one it's about I mean health and just kind of like like health Nazis, health fascists, trying to enforce that on people rather than letting that just be a choice. And also I think there was a little bit something to say with just like the self-righteousness of some like the Well Knights and stuff, or Invet Law, particularly, I guess the purest of the pure or whatever. And how far you can get your head up your own ass that, it ends up, it ends poorly for him.
I actually, that ties into one of my criticisms for this, which is I for background, I live in Los Angeles. So I'm surrounded by the health nuts. All right. This is low hanging fruit for me. Like I love this stuff. I eat it up, pun intended. Okay. I did kind of want someone who is like a legit zealot about it though, because all of the zealots are really just in it for the ego trip, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because they're bullies fundamentally.
Well,
and I feel like
Invets. Well, the one there's one there's one. It's Macros. He's really in it, and he's dead.
I guess that's
I think
fair.
maybe that's the.
That's what the
I mean,
true
maybe
zealotry
that's
leads
the
to.
thing is that he worked himself out to death.
That's a fair
But yeah,
rebuttal.
the Well Knights, no, they're all fake.
I wish we had one Well Knight who was like a true paladin of the faith and
Okay.
like it and sucked because of that, because he was genuinely so committed to it, as opposed to just being a hypocritical shit.
Yeah.
But isn't that kind
That's
of
what I
part
was
of the
missing.
satire, though, to kind of say that they're all full of shit in some way?
I mean, that's fair. It was definitely an intentional choice, and maybe he feels that all people are like that. I mean, I think that there's something true to the idea of like a lot of these people, regardless of whatever sort of cult they're in, because I do think the health world is a cult, or parts of it are, I should say, not obviously everything, but it is filling a hole inside their being. Like something inside them is fundamentally broken, and this is what comes in and eats them from the inside out. Yet again, pun intended. And those are not planned. I want to be clear too. That's just the shit that comes out of my mouth. I don't remember what else I was going to say there, so I'm leaving it at that.
So maybe that sort of leads in a little bit to my topic. What do you think that this is just a book about health fascist period? And I'm sure we have to read it also as like any good thing taken to the extreme, or not any good thing. Let's say any ideology, the way it is enforced matters as much as the actual ideology itself, and like the zealotry makes things bad and people unhappy. But are we just saying that focus on health is bad, or is it more the zealotry of it all that's getting the commentary? I don't think
I think it's the zealotry.
Yeah.
I think it's
Because, I mean,
zealotry.
I would point at the, that intro, that said, attention, health fascists. He's not saying how,
Well, he
like,
says
like that, that implies
lifestyle.
you're enforcing it onto the people.
Mm.
Or lifestyle.
Yeah, lifestyle fascist.
Lifestyle fascist. But but that fascistness, that is the enforcing it on other people. It's not just, I'm trying to live healthy. I believe in, being a vegetarian. I go work out. I think you cross that line when you start enforcing it on everybody else and making everybody else feel like you have to be like me or you're wrong.
Right.
And I think that's what he's criticizing.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I need to say something very important.
Mm.
Very, very important. I read a different novella.
What the?
Because I was going in order in the book where I had. And the second one that I have in my book is The Lease of Laughter's End.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's
I
how
was
it is.
curious.
Yeah.
That's why I was curious about your title.
Yep.
You've called yourself the book critic, and there are 0 book critics in the book we read.
Yeah. No, what's yeah. Well, it's a character in the sense. I just thought it was in order. I didn't even think. Like,
Now,
I remember you said it last time what we were supposed to read. I just didn't consider. I just assumed it was next time. So I think I might have to jump
Dan-
out.
Dan, I've missed you, Dan.
Yeah. It's
to your credit, Dan, I also was confused, and I almost texted to ask, but then I remembered, wait, we're doing this in publication order. So I looked up the publication order in the front of this book. What order were they copywritten in? And lo and behold, The Healthy Dead was the second one.
Well, that's the difference between being smart and not being smart.
Oh.
Like you have doubts and you check, and then instead I don't even have the doubts.
You took the words right out of my mouth, bud.
I mean, kudos to Shannon, because he keeps me in line with his threads that he creates with. Next week we're reading
I was
X, Y, and Z.
gonna say, I actually made a thread where I listed everything in publication order for us. So anybody stopping by the page burners or the page chewing,
I always check your threads because I'm like, I'm never exactly sure how many chapters we need to read. So I'm always like, do I check Shannon's thread and like, oh, this is what we need to read. But this time I was so sure.
There's a thread on there,
it's
and
so
I'll bump
easy.
it up maybe. It's got the whole publication order of all the books, just before the last one was published.
So I'll probably have to jump off. But I do want to say one thing, I guess, before I go, because it's something I can say regardless of the topic, because it's just something that you mentioned. It's like, as far as health, fashion, and stuff like that, and then I'll run away. Is that some health choices that just affect yourself are one thing, and then health choices that affect other people, or for example, if you say like vegetarian or vegan or whatever, like that stuff that doesn't just affect yourself, but it affects other entities and people and society. So there's a little bit of a difference between saying, Zeltrin one is Zeltrin, the other one is one of the same. But again, I didn't read this book, so I don't know what to say. So yeah.
Well, you got some homework. Read it before next week, and you can tell us what you thought.
I'll type something in the discussions. So yeah, thanks and sorry for
Well, you had
distracting.
to.
Yeah. Okay. Bye, guys.
Bye. So what were we talking about other than health fascism?
The desire for goodness leads to the end of civilization. That's
that is a great, horribly cynical, dark take there. A wonderful line, tells you so much about Bauchelain.
Yeah.
Well, we got like 3 quotes that were like, this leads to the end of civilization. One of them is the opposite, wasn't it?
That was Emancipor trying to please Bauchelain, actually, with that line.
I love the subtle character work in these novellas. I mean, this is classic Erikson, just like little bits and details that like, it's not elucidated on, but Emancipor Reese keeps a secret stash of intoxicants, drugs of varying kinds, because he's so fucking miserable. He's so fucking miserable that he is constantly getting himself drunk, high, completely like stupid, out of his mind, shit-faced. Like it's a great little detail that Erikson doesn't really underline. He just lets you intuit the meaning of that. I think it's wonderful.
I think that's part of what I meant by the growing agency given to Emancipor in this one story. From the only appearances we've had, of course, is in Memories of Ice, where he was just out of his mind saying, "Why didn't you kill them?" To Quick Ben, and that's all we really got of him, just a scared manservant who wishes his masters were dead. And then in the first story in this book, the first published story at Lamentable Mole, where he joins them, and he once he joins, he feels like he's trapped and he has to go, and that's pretty much his lot in life and his fate. But in this story, we get him doing little independent things like gathering the drugs in the fields and keeping his own stash and speaking his own mind to the in the chamber of the dead king and stuff like that, and kind of doing his own little actions that even surprised Bauchelain. When Bauchelain walked in, he's like, oh, you took care of this. Oh, wow. And it was, I found that those little character tidbits were just wonderful. I love the Emancipor. He's a great character.
I'm ride or die with Emancipor Reese. I'm ride or die.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts on my boy Mancy? Or
no, that's characters? Yeah, that's I loved what he did with him in here, and I just thought it was
Mancy is one of my absolute favorite as Malazan characters. I think it was probably the Critical Dragon. I heard once describe him as like Erikson's Swiss Army knife of a character. It's like he just has all these skills and he just knows things, and he can just somehow think his way out of any situation, as we saw here, he starts pretending, like he's got amnesia, and then he says something really stupid, and he just somehow turns it so that it all works out for him. And I love it how even Bauchelain was like, "Oh, we didn't even really need to raise all these dead. You did it." Like,
Yeah, right. Exactly.
you know,
Yeah. When he poses as the saint, that was just I laughed so hard.
Yeah, I love that. It was great. Yeah, and he appealed to that one guy's vanity, so that even though the or the historical purge, she didn't buy it for a second. She knew he was lying, but he just appealed to the other guy's being full of himself, and was like, oh yeah, and you know brought down the whole system just with a handkerchief.
Mhm.
So I have a question about their carriage. They have kind of a lame carriage now, right? Like they had a whole house thing in Memories of Ice, but right now it's just a simple carriage, right? Or
Well,
did I
that's one thing I
misspeak?
did want to mention. It
Mhm.
Yeah.
drives me crazy a little bit that I have no idea where Quaint is, and I don't really know when this, as far as these stories go, it's like, okay, well, we know this happened after Blood Follows because, Emancipor Reese is part of the team now. But like, did this happen before or after Memories of Ice? I don't know.
I think I read somewhere
Mm.
that I think I read somewhere it happens before Memories of Ice.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because when I was trying to find out where Quaint was, I saw somebody mention, or like one theory was that the town that was destroyed that they mentioned in the beginning of the story was maybe Kapustan, which I don't agree with. I was like, I don't know, because
Yeah.
it seems like they're blaming these two for the destruction of that city. I think that people would be blaming the army of cannibals for the destruction of Kapustan.
Yeah.
So I was like, so yeah, but yeah, and the carriage is different. So I don't think it's concurrent or with that. So I have no idea. So maybe before, maybe they don't have the nicest carriage yet. That would make sense.
Yeah.
I'll say a completely random hard right turn here. A little disappointed that I didn't get more hints into my theory that Mancy's wife is dead and his children. I still stand by that reading of the first novella, but he just thinks about her in a very normal way. And it doesn't disprove it, until I see her bodily on screen. I'm going to continue to believe she's dead. But was a little bit disappointed that I didn't catch any hints of that whatsoever.
Maybe that's why he needs all those drugs, not because of who his bosses are.
That would be a crazy reveal, that he's staying intoxicated so he doesn't think about his dead wife.
So, Carl, for new listeners, what is your theory?
Yeah, if you're just listening now, my theory is basically in the first story, whatever it's called, blood something.
Follows. Blood
follows. We're in Emancipor Reese's head. We never actually meet his wife. We hear his wife. And by hear, I mean, of course, we read her dialogue, which I'm pretty sure is almost entirely in italics. It's quoted, like it has quotations, but it's like in italics a lot. And the bottom line is we never actually see her. He thinks about her a lot, but we never see her or the kids. There are comments made about what they do, but until I see them actually doing anything in a city that was famous for, the undead and these stories that literally star two necromancers, I very strongly believe that his wife and children are in fact dead. I don't know how. I hope it's not he killed them in a blind rage, but who knows? It wouldn't be too dark for Erickson if that were the case. But either way, I maintain that his wife and children are dead. They're ghosts. To be clear, I'm not saying they're dead and they just don't exist. They're out in the ether. They're ghosts. Like they're actually around. He actually heard them. He heard their ghosts. That's the theory. I don't remember the bigger details. People can go back and listen because I did bring up like a bunch of, like, I think I quoted the book. And everyone started out like, oh, I don't know about that. And then once we really started looking into the scenes, it was like, okay, actually, maybe you have a point here.
I think even times when they were in the house together, supposedly, she was in another room and yelling at him from the kitchen or something.
That's what I'm
So-
saying. She's always in the next room. She's like, they're never right next to each other. She never touches him. I think maybe she throws something at him once. I could be making that up. A lot of women throw things at their husbands in Erikson books. So, that could be blurring together. But you definitely never see her.
In this book, we didn't see her either. that he's not. It's been supposedly 4 years since they
That's right, isn't it? Wow.
they took this job.
Crazy.
And over that time, he hasn't built the tolerance to working with them, because he ran mad through the poppy fields because Korbal Broach gave him something to hold, right? Something really unpalatable. So that was funny.
There was not enough Korbal Broach in this story.
Does that man ever talk? I don't think we got a single line from him in this book.
Yeah, not in this one.
He smiled, and Bauchelain talked back to him as if he said something, but he didn't actually say anything.
I understand what Erikson's going for here, but I think we could have used a slightly heavier dollop of Korbal Broach. I like keeping him more mysterious, keeping him quieter, keeping him creepier, letting Bauchelain be our main POV into their dynamic. But I felt like the first novella and then Memories of Ice had the right amount of Korbal Broach, where it didn't get old, it didn't feel like whatever, he was still mysterious and scary. But actually, I felt like more of a presence, which I didn't feel as much in this.
Yeah, you want to see him.
Minor,
At least,
minor.
one or two scenes to lead.
I love my weird bald
Not just
eunuch
hear about him,
serial
but not
killer
really, yeah.
necromancer. All right, on the topic of critiques, I'm going to throw out my last critique and then leave it be, and I'll just rave about all the things I loved in this, which was most of it. It kind of felt like it was just very it wasn't that deep, I guess. I almost feel like this could have been a short story. I feel like a lot of the same sorts of scenes kept happening, and they just would get cut in the middle of them, so we get these really short chapters instead. And I felt like I kind of got the point of the story by about halfway through the story. And by halfway through, I really mean by 3 pages through. And it wasn't really developed much. So it was fun to read the whole way through. As entertainment, 10 out of 10. I loved it. As when I go to Erikson, I expect something meaty. And I felt like this just didn't have as much meat on the bone.
Yeah, I'll actually kind of back you up on that. I think I was thinking about that earlier when I read it, and I was like,
and again.
It's there's the first third of the book, which is a little bit more meaty, and then the back 2/3 when basically after probably Emancipor Reese makes Loth crazy. For the rest of the book, it's just kind of zany action. And the healthy dead come back, the unhealthy dead come back, the riots, the big explosion of that monument, cows flying through the air, and I like it. There's a lot of good there, but it's almost like a different book because it just kind of at this point we're just on action. So I see what you're saying. And then what's her name? Purge, being tempted to sin again or whatever it is, and then finally falling into it, and then going back to her old brothel, and then the sheep guy.
It just felt like there were no surprises really, except for the lust reveal, and then that itself, as we can eventually talk about, kind of bothered me a little bit. Although I think maybe there's a seed of an interesting idea there. Maybe I just haven't thought about it enough. I don't know. I mean, to his credit, that is the thing that he got me to really think about coming out of this story, was what he was arguing there. But it just felt very predictable and repetitive. And luckily he is such a master entertainer. He's very funny. This world is wonderful, that like I loved reading the whole thing. Like I didn't get bored. I just felt sort of like, oh, this is like Erickson light. Like this is him when he's not like pushing himself harder. While like the first short story has a much worse title. Blood Follows, not a great title. The Healthy Dead, fantastic, 10 out of 10 title. That is an awesome title. The first one was really meaty and interesting and messy and had a lot more going on, I felt like. And so even just in comparison to that, even just between these two stories, I felt like The Healthy Dead just didn't live up to it. It's still like, again, I don't want to like make it sound like I thought it was bad or I didn't enjoy it. I loved it, but it just wasn't.
No, on
like,
reread, I enjoyed it. I think a little bit less than the first time I read
complex
it.
and interesting.
So, I mean, I agree. I think you nailed it.
I expect.
Like there isn't a lot there. I mean, it's fun, it's enjoyable, but it wasn't quite as fun to reread as basically all the Erickson books I've read so far, including Blood Follows.
Yeah. I would agree that it is on the nose. It's very on the nose. This story makes it no less fun though to read through. And this was my second read of this, but the first one was very long ago, so I didn't remember much, and it was so quick to read. And I don't know if that's because of the tons of page breaks that you get in between each little two page chapters that you get. So that's what made it faster to go through. But either way, it was a blast to go through again. And I don't know about your copy of the book, but mine doesn't have like these page breaks are not numbered or anything like that, so you don't know where you are in the in the story. I ended up writing in the book and numbering them myself just to keep better track of them. I know that would get me put in jail in this world here. But
Jared, I'm going to start a book fascist organization, and we're going to arrest you.
I was not being prim and proper.
How dare you mark in what you own your own personal property? That's insane.
There you go.
Somebody needs to protect that book from you.
Yeah, I will definitely be your first arrest. Yeah, I'll be your first arrest because I know Vasha's seen some of my other books that I've torn apart, ripped, and written in. So.
Ripped and written in. Jeez.
Yeah.
Shame.
I know. I did look up a couple sources, and it does say that Healthy Dead takes place.
I was looking for it. I really was. It's like, where's Quaint? I gotta know, and I don't know. I saw one theory that it's.
Yeah, not really. Yeah.
It's not on. It's on any map. I did see one theory that it was
I could not
Warren.
find
Maybe
Quaint
they're in another
on the
world
interactive map and everything. I could not find Quaint. Yeah.
Because of Hood's avatar or whatever showing up. Like I don't think we have any. Like we ever see Hood show up in another Warren like that. But I don't. And also everybody's familiar with all the Durang and everything that Bauchelain and Korbal Broach have, and I'm like, well, if they're familiar with that, then they've seen it before, and it's the same stuff. So I don't know. But that was one theory I did run across, just because no, it's not on any map. No idea where it's at. Yeah. I will just have to go to my grave, never knowing where Quaint is. How quaint.
How quaint.
That's bad. How quaint. Were there any characters that stood out as interesting
I mean,
among all the
Imid is, I think he's probably
quaintians
the
we
most
met?
interesting for me, just because he's kind of our main central viewpoint.
Well,
And he had
you
some
had
great lines. I think, and I love that he got that nun
the
killed.
demon.
And even though this was a reread, and I remembered the lust lady beneficence thing, but I didn't remember the kids were still alive. I really thought that they were being cannibals and eating the babies. And like I told that, I was blindsided by that again. I was like, oh no, you got that lady killed for no reason. Well, it was so on the nose, and Frank on a reread, it was so on
I
the
mean,
nose
he
that
really did make us think
lust was
that.
actually this temple. So I was like, oh well, obviously, they're eating people because yeah, she's like looking at him, and yeah, it's obvious, and I fell for it.
Yeah, I love the portrayal of minor demons in this story.
Yeah.
I just thought that was so cool that you had these minor demons who are not necessarily like powerful or anything like that, but they just kind of insinuating themselves a little bit here in society and people's thinkings, and they're suppressed by this whole, just as much as the people are oppressed, they're suppressed by this rigorous lifestyle fascism. And I thought that was pretty fascinating that even the demons could feel that suppression by this new world order imposed upon the town. And that was just pretty cool to me. And eventually, as people broke out of it, they kind of grew in power a little bit, and not to the level of Bauchelain, obviously, but it was just pretty kind of neat how he displayed that kind of because they're sort of ascendants in a way by the way they feed off things, the way they feed off powers and emotions and vices and what have you. And so it was just
Maybe
but then they weren't like these all powerful
you go,
demon gods or anything like that. So it was amusing and neat, I thought.
Yeah, I also I was just gonna say I also really liked how they were portrayed. To speak to your point about how they're really not that powerful, and it kind of adds, I think, the uniqueness and the humor of their portrayal. I did not believe they were demons for about 2/3 of the story. Like, I don't remember what point I was like, oh wait, these are actually like demons. Like, these are like legitimately like the 7 deadly sins. Like, okay, that's what we're working with here. This is his pastiche of them. Maybe less a pastiche and more of a parody. And I really was on board with that. I thought that was really fun, and that this type of story dealing with healthfulness is such a unique sort of virtue turned vice that I really enjoyed their inclusion. That was actually definitely one of the highlights for me of this story. I don't know that there's like one of them in particular that I was really impressed by as a character, but their general inclusion and the role they play in the story, emotionally and a plot sense, like how important they are, down to just like, it's just a fun concept, and symbolically how they play into it is intriguing. He doesn't do the lazy thing of like, well, actually the demons are the good guys, like they're still the demons. They're still like selfish and like focused on their base desires. But, you kind of feel bad for them because they've been, suppressed so hard underneath the oppression of the health cult, which turns out was led by one of them, which is the cherry on top, actually. And I did find that very amusing. Okay, maybe this is a good transition point to talk about what I wanted to talk about, which is lust, and that the whole notion that the healthfulness, the obsession with that comes out of lust. I think like maybe there's an interesting argument you can make there about how desires for like longevity and goodness, you know, a good life and like sex and reproduction and like what it means to be human, you know, gets wrapped up in this moral virtue that then becomes a vice because it's, you know, you're zealots and you're being just narcissistic jerks about it. But that isn't really what Bauchelain argues in his big final monologue. It's more just like, yes, this was all lust the entire time, the health obsession, because lust is just obsession. And obsession is blah, 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 and it leads to the end of civilization, blah, blah, blah. And it just like, it didn't really, like, I don't know that I needed him to connect every dot, but it kind of felt like it completely sidestepped what lust literally is, unless he's trying to completely redefine lust. In other words, lust is fundamentally sexual. And he completely eliminated the sexual component of that. And I don't know why. Like, it's right there in the story. So like it wasn't like it was absent. But like when you're like doing one of those big, particularly in a satire, like kind of monologues, you know, that even if they're not summarizing like a main point takeaway, they are summarizing something that you're really meant to like view as thoughtful and you know, something to think about. And I almost feel like in this type of story, it's not that, you know, they're necessarily like right, you know, because often Bauchelain is, you know, he has such a skewed worldview, but that it is like still nonetheless has a logic that's interesting. And I guess that's my issue with it, is I feel like the logic he presents is illogical. It doesn't make any sense. Well, I think there is some form of that lust is the real seed of all this.
Well, I was going to say, you know, Carl, I
Does that make
backed
sense?
you earlier, so now I'm going to very much
It makes
lock horns
sense
with you and disagree.
insofar as oh, sorry.
You know, you said lust is fundamentally sexual, and I don't think it is. Lust can be sexual. It's not. Lust can be anything, like literally anything that you lust after. I can lust after the technology. I can lust after just anything. No, I think that's, yeah, it is definition. Lusting is like something that is out of my reach. You know,
but isn't
it's
that just
something that I
greed?
can't have, but I
Then
want it. And
I guess again, this is
in the
definitional.
context of this story, I guess, you know, the lust would be, that, you know, the health. I mean, people going after, you know, they're chasing it, and you know, we see here nobody's achieving. I mean, because they're. I mean, I would argue they're probably not going about it the right way. I mean, you know, we don't see anybody actually living healthy. They're just not allowed vices and eating a bunch of grass until they get constipated and die. That seems to be the story. So it's like they're less, you know, so I mean, you could say, yeah, I mean, I could see, you know, as far as like the people, are they lusting after this? No, not at all. But like Macros is definitely lusting after this. He's like, you know, he wants this healthy kingdom. He envisions this thing that he can't have, but he wants it. And he's trying to enforce it on people. But also, I don't think necessarily just the health is the lust in here, because like with the well knights, like you pointed out, none of them are there for good reasons. And I would say, like, Invet Loth is definitely lustful. Like he's lusting after that, you know, people loving him. He's lusting after like that fame and notoriety. Like, you know, he lies to Emancipor. He's like, there's a little known prophecy that I'd be the one to find you. You know, because he wants all eyes on him. And I think and now, yes, you could. I mean, it's pride, it's greed, it's all these things. But there is no demon of pride here. There's a demon of lust. So it's lust.
Okay.
I think everything you're saying is making sense. And just the thing that is the fundamental disconnect for me is that I just don't view lust that way. Like lust for me is foundationally sexual desire. And I don't even think it has to be unattainable. Like you could like your partner, you know, someone you're with in a traditional monogamous relationship, like you can lust after them,
Yeah.
and then consummate that lust.
Well, I think
I
it's
see
like,
what you're saying, though, but I'm sorry. No, Jared, please go.
well, I think it's like Steve said. There's a balance there too. I think he's saying that lust doesn't have to be a bad thing, just like what you said, and but taken to the extreme, you know, it's the balance that's important. But one of the things we got to keep in mind is that it is an intrinsically evil bastard who's saying this stuff, Bauchelain, and so I took it with a grain of salt myself. That what he was pronouncing stuff because he's completing a job that he's getting paid for, and he's gonna say whatever the hell is gonna make it work for him. So it's
the thing that to me challenges the notion that we can just like sort of brush aside what he's saying there is that lust is responsible for the cult.
True.
And so to me that like I read that then as like maybe everything he said after that point is BS, right? Like getting down to the fall of civilization and crap like that, right? Like that's him giving a supervillain monologue. But the idea that lust itself is at the root of this health obsession, this health fascism, I do feel is like kind of the point being underlined there. And I mean, thanks to Steve for putting I don't know, Merriam-Webster somewhere, some dictionary's definition, which does, remind, I mean, at first it acknowledges the sexual connotations of lust, but also mentions that, it's also sometimes used like in lust for power, which is true. I have, of course, heard that phrase and do, I guess, think of that phrase. So I guess it comes, if we put aside the sexual aspect, it comes down to desire. So let's dig into that a little bit then. So like, what is the desire?
You live, in LA or whatever, around all these health nuts. What are they lusting after?
Like is it lust for power? Is that what it's really saying?
Mm-hmm.
Well, okay. I do think different people get different things out of it. So I think for some people, they genuinely are trying to do a good thing, and they just take it too far. I think for some people, it's an ego thing. I hesitate to use the word narcissist because that's overused these days, but like it's it's strongly ego driven, and it is ultimately about like it's about power, right? It's about power. It's about making themselves feel superior to everyone else around them.
Mm-hmm.
And then there are those who just kind of it's like a religion, it fills a hole in their life and helps shape the way they view the world and how they should operate in it. Helps them understand right and wrong, that sort of thing. And I guess in a sense that's maybe there's a lot of overlap there with the first type I was describing. I don't know what obsessive desire.
I think and also
neatly fits in, except maybe as a lust for power
people that fear
with the second
not working out and like losing their physique. I think the fear is also another big basis. But as far as the lust goes, I think they're and again, this is kind of going into satire. This obviously doesn't fit probably a lot of people, but I think about like those guys who only focus on arms and they're not working out all their body. They're not really being healthy. They're just making themselves jacked with like little chicken legs. And it's like, well, now those guys, I would say you're probably lusting after something. You're lusting after these arms. You want this, and they're so focused on it, they're neglecting the other things, So again, I don't think all health nuts are bad. I think a lot are.
Yeah.
But I think that is particularly maybe what this book is going after, those people that just really, are obsessed. Um, mhm,
Right.
mhm.
That's fair. I mean, because it's talking about a specific type of
I mean, look,
health nut.
my wife wakes
Because
up
there
every
is a
single day at 4
range,
o'clock, goes to the
and
gym,
it's the
and
health
I think she's insane.
lifestyle
But
fascists, right?
she says
People
if she
who
doesn't
want
do
to
it, she won't go to
impose their
gym.
will
Like that's
upon
why she
everyone
does it. She
else.
wakes up, goes to the gym, goes to work, and it's like, well, that's discipline, and it works for her. I can't wake up 4 a.m. I'm not doing it, but
It's good, yeah.
you know what? It works for her, and I'm happy for her.
Right. Amen.
Yeah. Couldn't you say that
Mhm.
part of the story is that if you take your wants and desires to an unhealthy level of obsession, then you
Yeah,
may as
that's
well
deep,
be
Jared.
dead
That's deep.
instead of living your
That's good
life.
though.
Thus, you are the healthy dead.
I like that. I like that as a thesis. Yeah, that's good.
Okay, time for bed. No.
That was good though. That was really good. Well said. I expect your paper done this Friday. I will grade it over the weekend.
All right. Well, I'll ask for a Sunday deadline.
Okay. Varsha, we haven't heard from you in a minute. What are your thoughts about anything we've been saying?
I mean, I think I agree with everything that's being discussed. Yeah, maybe more with Shannon on the lust is not strictly sexual thing, but also, yeah, what Bauchelain says, yeah, I can sort of see what that means. I'm like just reading that metaphorically, or I don't know if that's the right word, but in the sense that anything taken to an extreme, which you can do like lustfully, is bad, and that's kind of what I'm interpreting what he's saying as. I think literally read, that is definitely maybe problematic. I don't strictly agree with it, but as a statement of too much of a good thing can be bad, yeah, sure, I can see that.
I think the way you just put that helped me grapple with the way Erickson phrases it in the story, which is thinking lust as like a lack of moderation. By obsession, like that's what we mean, is this like absolute commitment to it. And so for that lust, I can see sort of applying. I'm sorry. I'm sure you could hear the dog barking.
That lusty dog.
A very lusty dog.
Yeah.
Steve?
Anything else? Yeah. Sorry, go ahead, Steve.
No, I was just listening to your dog lust after your attention.
That's all I got. I really vomited out everything that was on my mind. So
nice. Yeah, I feel like we milked this book for all it's worth. What
Yeah.
else? What else? Does anybody have anything to say?
I'm excited for Leaves of Laughter's End, and I'm actually a little disappointed that it's going to be a while before we get to it.
Well, yeah, it's after
Do you know
Bone
when
Hunters.
that is? Is it after Bone Hunters?
Yeah.
Or the one after?
It's sometime after Bone
God, I
Hunters.
hope so.
Yeah.
Okay, that should be fun. Yeah. Yeah. You gotta bump up that. I've got
Yeah.
something bookmarked for the publication order, but I always lose it, and
Yes.
then I have to go find it on the wiki.
And we're jumping right into Night of Knives. Is that correct?
Yes, next week is Night of Knives. We'll go up to the end of chapter 4, I think. I'll grab my
Wait,
book after
folks.
this and confirm that,
Cool.
but I think that's how far we'll go.
I actually had a couple.
Okay, in that case, we'll see everybody back here next week with Knight of
And
Knives. I'm
yes,
really
Leaves the
excited.
Laughter End is right
First
after Bone
Esselmont
Hunters.
book. Quotes. Yes, let's do quotes. Sorry. Let's do quotes.
Dan can return with his head
Oh,
bowed in
okay.
shame.
Hold on, I gotta fire up the Kobo here, and that's where I
Well, take us away,
Leave Frank
Shannon. You
highlight
have the
stuff.
quotes.
without actually defacing my books, Jarrett. I did want to say, like, there was one I had to quote, but I'll just say I think I loved Bauchelain's whole, like, Mr. Reese, how perfectly diabolical is this king's genius. You know, at the beginning when he's talking to him, he's telling him, like, oh, this king is such a genius, and you know, he's dead, and this is really stupid. Like on reread, I liked that quote because I was like, I do that. I was like, oh no, he's not a genius. You're not facing a genius. Let's see. So I had desire for goodness, Mr. Reese, leads to earnestness, and in turn leads to sanctimonious self-righteousness, which breeds tolerance, upon which harsh judgment quickly follows, yielding to dire punishment, inflicting general terror and paranoia, eventually culminating in revolt, leading to chaos, then dissolution, and thus the end of civilization. That's the first one, which I really liked. And then another one, my other one, really. I think this one was fun. Yeah, I love this one because, well, I believe, Mr. Reese, that, for example, there are a set number of beats to which the heart is capable. In similar manner, all muscles and bones and other organs are allotted a specific limit for their functioning. I had no idea when I read this book how many years, it's been probably like 3-4 years. I internalized that because I have quoted that to people. In fact, I did just Saturday night. I said somebody like, oh yeah, I never go for a run because the heart only has so many beats. Why am I going to make it beat faster? So I internalized that, and I quote that probably at least like once a month or so to somebody.
That's brilliant.
That's awesome.
Pretty good.
I do have one. Vice had always been the retreat of artists. When naught else remained, there was always drink, dubious carnal appetites, and excess of indulgences served on overflowing plates, the host of delectable death wishes to sample among the myriad substances that were offered, or had been offered, back in the good old days.
Cheers.
Cheers.
I have the response to Emancipor when he asked the paladin if there can be second chances, and he says, no, there cannot be. The very notion of fallibility was invented to absolve mortals of responsibility. I laughed at that. That was just hilarious.
That's a great line. Varsha, you got any quotes?
No, not today. I had pins
No, that was
of
it.
topics,
The
but I think we
heartbeat one was
covered all
mine.
of them.
That was it.
So, no quotes for me.
All right, then. If Steve doesn't have any, I think Shannon, you had one more.
It's harder to get quotes when you're listening on audio while driving. So
that's fair. All right, then. Are we ready to wrap up now?
Let's do it.
Anything else I forgot to do? Okay. We'll see everybody back next week with Knight of Knives, the first 4 chapters. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you soon. Bye.